morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Yes, dream keepers, dreaming forward. Hello, hello, testing, testing, testing. A big thank you to our creator. A big thank you to Dr. Davis, Director Saida. Thank you so much for having us here today, Dreaming Forward. My name is Rodney Earl Jackson Jr. I'm the artistic director of the San Francisco Bay Area Theater Company, a proud recipient of the Dream Keepers Initiative here in San Francisco. Yes, yes. Bring some energy up in here this morning. It's 9 a.m. Lord have mercy. All right, I was asked to do a God-forsaken thing and sing for y'all this morning before the hour of 11 a.m. But I couldn't say no to this incredible woman in green. She is the queen right now. She is allowing all of these incredible things to happen, and I'm so grateful for her and for her asking me to be here today. So I'm gonna need y'all help because we black up in here, so we're gonna sing the Negro National Anthem, but I'm gonna need y'all support. We can all stand, yes, yes. Hey, Supervisor, how you doing? Good to see you. Yes. I ain't got my glasses on. I can't see everybody no more. All right, this is the key I'm gonna start in. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun, our brand new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Give yourself a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Y'all can have a seat now. Go and have a seat. The interactive part of the program is over. Yes. Not quite, not quite. Yes.
Good morning. Good morning. We must say our thanks this morning. First, under the guidance and leadership of our tribal leaders here in San Francisco, we acknowledge that we are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the indigenous stewards of this land, and in accordance with the traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place. We, and all of us, must acknowledge all the peoples who reside in their traditional territory. As guests, we recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community and by affirming their sovereignty and the sovereign rights as First Peoples. We also acknowledge the Black pioneers and leaders of San Francisco, starting in the 1800s, including Mary Ellen Pleasant and William Leadsdorff, to Maya Angelou and Mayor Willie L. Brown. Our history in San Francisco is rich and deep. It is my great honor to introduce a shining light of our current generation of leadership, Dr. Saida Leatutufu Birch, the director of the Dream Keepers Initiative.
Thank you. I know I had to put on my Sunday's best for y'all. Thank you, Chair Clopton. Chair Clopton serves as the chair of the San Francisco Human Rights Commission, so thank you for that introduction and land acknowledgement. So it was just about a year ago, I was before y'all, and I was professing that I was Black first. And I am happy to say that today I am still Black first and excited to be in this room. My name is Dr. Saida Leatutufu Birch, and I am a Black and Indigenous Samoan wife, daughter, sister, organizer, cultural orator, disruptor of anti-Black racism and systems rooted in white supremacist ideology, and advancer of Black liberation and Indigenous sovereignty. I am also blessed to serve as the director of the Dream Keeper Initiative with the San Francisco Human Rights Commission. It is with immense gratitude that I welcome you to this second annual Dream Keeper Initiative celebration and call to action, Dreaming Forward, a celebration of Black joy, power, and excellence. And I must say that Black joy, Black power, and Black excellence is present in this room today. A couple of years ago, when cities and corporations alike pledged investments to Black lives in response to our brothers and sisters losing their lives at the hands of police, Black San Francisco organized, and in response, San Francisco actually made the investment. Through the leadership of Mayor London Breed, Dr. Cheryl Davis, Supervisor Shamann Walton, community, and many more, the Dream Keeper Initiative invests $60 million a year to ensure that San Francisco's diverse Black communities can experience joy and feelings of safety, can advance economically and educationally, and are holistically healthy and thriving. The Dream Keeper Initiative is about creating an environment where Black San Franciscans can experience prosperity, liberation, and imagine a future here in this city. This work is impossible without every single person in this room, and I'd like to acknowledge and express my immense gratitude again to Mayor Breed and Director Dr. Cheryl Davis, Supervisor Walton for their courageous leadership. Thank you to community in this space and online who continues to hold us accountable every single day. There is also a team of folks that are behind the work in city government who are willing and accepting of being held accountable. So a specific thank you to the Dream Keeper team within the Human Rights Commission, Prel Gilton, Lila Vega, Josh Harrison, James Lockhart, Stephanie Garcia, Becky LaDolce, and Chidima Ohanale. Thank you. Thank you to our departmental partners, the Office of Economic and Workforce Development. I see Josh Arce, Janan, David, Jerry, all those folks in the room. The Department of Early Childhood, the Department of Children, Youth, and Their Families, the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, the Department of Human Resources, the Fire Department, the Arts Commission, and the Department of Public Health. and to the 80+ community organizations who implement action all year long so that we may experience collective liberation. Now y'all know, as our folks say, if I missed anyone, charge it to my head and not to my heart. I am still grateful for you all. And so we have an amazing day planned for you today. An amazing lineup of speakers where we're going to hear how we apply what we learned from our past and bridge that to our future. We're going to hear from trailblazers. We're going to hear from leaders who are in the space. We're going to see the work in action. We have a series of concurrent workshops where you'll be able to see how our grantees of the Dreamkeeper Initiative are implementing the work in community. And so I charge you, how will you apply what you learned today? How will you dream forward? My pastor opened the year with a statement to me. The tools you use to survive will no longer serve you now that it's time to thrive. The tools you use to survive will no longer serve you now that it's time to thrive. So, in a time when our joy, peace, and very being are constantly under attack, I am grateful to not only know how to survive, but be intentional about thriving. I am grateful to be filled with the spirit of our ancestors to, in the words of Curtis Mayfield, keep on keeping on. I am grateful that Nat kept rebelling and Harriet kept going back. I am grateful that Mary McLeod Bethune kept teaching and Frederick kept abolishing. I am grateful that Baldwin kept writing, that Martin kept walking, that Rosa kept sitting, that Malcolm kept applying pressure, that Stokely, Huey, and Angela kept organizing, that Shirley kept bringing that folding chair, that Mahalia kept singing, and I am grateful that Black San Franciscans will keep illuminating the Black joy, Black power, Black excellence that is here, that has always been here, and that will always be here. So I am grateful for your presence today, and that you are in space, and that you will continue to dream forward. So with that, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce who I consider a mentor, who I honor and am blessed to work with, the director of the Human Rights Commission, Dr. Cheryl Evans Davis.
Good morning. Oh, y'all are kind of used to it. It was a better sound. Usually I'm like, y'all not, like Rodney, y'all got to wake up. I know y'all not used to being at work this early, huh? Not used to being dressed with your clothes on the screen. I was like, I wanted to say something, then I didn't want y'all to be like, oh, she thinks she's all that, because I was going to say a true sign of a genius, and I was like, oh, they don't think, I don't think I'm a genius. I'm just using this as a true sign of a genius is to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And I just want to say, although I don't think it was that smart of me to have Saida go ahead of me with the, so now I'm like starting to question the whole genius thing in the first place. I am just really grateful and beyond blessed. I will say, I told my son one time, I was like, I need him to get a good job so he can take care of me and I don't have to work anymore. And he was like, you would never stop working, right? I'm really fortunate to do things that I would do even if I was rich and didn't have to work. And I am grateful to be able to work with people like Dr. Sy and the whole Human Rights Commission team that I fully believe that even if they hit the lottery tomorrow, would still be doing the same work. And so we're here today because it really is about how do we dream forward? Because even in the midst of just unbelievable trauma and hurt and harm, that folks still have the ability to hope and to dream and to believe that things can get better. And so the last year has been an amazing testament, not just to the ability to hope, but actually the power of hope and the power of the people who believe that things can get better and to invest in that. And so today we celebrate the community. Yes, give the community a round of applause, because after decades of broken and failed promises, right, they still believed and hoped and then actually implemented. And so I'm grateful for right now the ability to actually introduce someone who has continued to hope and challenge and to elevate and amplify even when folks weren't ready. Now folks talk about Black Lives Matter, and it's used and it's repeated all the time in a way that maybe 5 years ago folks would have, said that it was socialist propaganda, and now it's become mainstream conversation. And in the same way, I was thinking when I saw Assessor Recorder Torres, like there was a time when we would have never imagined to be able to talk about investing in Black people and actually giving money to Black folks to run and take care of themselves and trust them to be able to do that. And we're in that space and place thanks to Supervisor Walton and Mayor Breed. So I want to thank them for their commitment, their dedication, and their investment. And we are not beyond or without criticism. Folks do not wake up one day and are perfect. And we accept that, right? Like there was a line in the John Legends, the perfect imperfections. Like I love imperfect, right? That's what makes us all unique and special. And the minute that we all start to act the same and be the same, we've lost what is pure and beautiful. So with that, I want to invite up Alicia Garza. I think the challenge for us was to have this conversation with the Black Futures Lab. The work that she is doing is taking what we know just within our hearts and anecdotally and quantifying that, right? Doing the research to document and talk about, and to also make sure that we understand the narrative of data. And I think that that is really important, because we can tell stories all day long, but some folks don't hear us and don't believe us without the data to back it up. And so as we continue to do this, unfortunately, we do have to quantify our dreams. And I think that Alicia Garza has allowed us to go from where Langston Hughes charged us to hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. She wants us to fly. And she knows that in order to fly, we have to have our dreams to be able to show us which way to go, but that the data actually propels us and allows us to stay in the air just like an airplane, right? So as we move forward, Saida, Dr. Sai gave you the call to action. We want to inspire, we want to give you the hope, we want to give you the belief, but we also want to give you the tools. And I believe that Alicia Garza has laid a roadmap in terms of her life, in terms of her work, but also in terms of the future that can help us be better for our communities and better for the future. So please give it up for Alicia Garza.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Alicia Garza, and I believe that Black communities deserve to be powerful in every aspect of our lives. I'm really happy to be here with y'all this morning. And I'm hoping that I can open up what is sure to be an excellent event today. First and foremost, I want to take a minute to just thank our fierce and fearless leader, Cheryl Evans Davis. Now, she's over here trying to organize everything, but I do want to just say, Cheryl, to you directly, that you are leading such important conversations. And you're creating the kind of space that has needed to be here for a very long time. I want to thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. And as somebody whose family is fourth generation San Franciscan, it really means a lot to me to be here with you today. I gotta be honest with y'all, only Cheryl could get me to come. I'm like kicking back these days. I gotta be honest. I mean, I really have stopped doing Black History Month things. For the most part.
But of course, when Cheryl asks, you'd just be like, yeah, I'm trying to come home. I miss the Bay. I live in Atlanta now. I'm one of the people who had to go because I just can't pay $4,000 a month to live here, my home. I don't miss these rents, but I miss the Bay. I don't miss looking for us and having to search for where we are. I remember when it wasn't so hard to find us. I remember when our stamp was as visible as we were on this city. Today, where jazz clubs once stood, where my grandfather played music, lies a plaque that tourists step on to get to the beer garden. The house my grandfather and my uncle and my cousins grew up in, the house where we would go for Super Bowl Sunday. I wasn't into football, but I was into them oxtails. That house just got sold for several $1 million. And it's stale and whitewashed now. My critics would say, nothing remains the same. And I retort the same that I always do, that that's not the point. The point is that the neighborhoods where we raised our families and learned how to ride bikes, where we came together as families, have been sold to the highest bidder in the name of nothing remains the same. So no, I don't say yes very much these days to Black History Month events. Not because I don't appreciate our history, not because I don't want to celebrate our accomplishments and our achievements. I do that all the time. But I don't say yes much these days because sometimes dreaming forward requires that we confront our ghosts in a way that I'm not always sure we're ready to be honest about. And I don't like to be lying about stuff. Our ancestors did not die for our right to vote. They died so we could be free and have power. Rosa Parks was not tired. She was an organizer. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was not a charity organization serving breakfast to poor Black children. They fought for power and self-determination. I don't like to be lying about stuff. Sometimes dreaming forward requires us to confront ourselves so we can get out of our own way. I don't say yes that much these days because somehow our freedom became a commodity that gets sold back to us in the form of promises and platitudes. Our faces in high places, but our conditions remain the same. Since this is the month of Martin Luther King quotations, let me remind us of one that still rings true today. Power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. What good is it to have a Black man on the Supreme Court when every day he votes against our freedom? Why do we have Black police officers if they can beat us to death and then share pictures with each other in the aftermath? I'm not a cynic about our freedom, but I find these days I have to remind myself of what is really necessary for us to achieve it. And I have to be honest with myself, and we have to be honest with ourselves about what we have accomplished and how far we have come so that I can remind myself and so we can remind ourselves that our fight is far from over. I said yes today because if you're like me, you too might be in need of some dreaming forward. I said yes today because I'm grateful for the reminder of some of our bravest warriors who dared to do what was right to change our conditions. Warriors who loved us so much that they dared to dream forward. Warriors who unabashedly warned us that militarism, that capitalism, posed great dangers to the possibility of our survival. That those evils would corrupt our hearts so much that we believed only in the power of the dollar as opposed to the power of our people. I'm lucky that every day I get to dream about our futures through the Black Futures Lab and the Black to the Future Action Fund. I get to dream and do the work to make Black people powerful in politics so we can be powerful in the rest of our lives. Our work is guided by the principles of the Black Panther Party for self-defense, and we believe deeply, just like they did, that our people deserve more than just platitudes. We deserve power. Now, when we talk about power, I want to remind you that we're not just talking about empowerment. Yes, we do want to feel good about ourselves in a world that demeans and diminishes us, but what good is that? What good is it to feel good in a world that demeans and diminishes us when we can't eat? Can't keep a roof over our heads or take care and provide for our families. So when I say power, I'm not talking about empowerment on its own. I'm talking about the ability to determine your own circumstances and the circumstances of others. I'm talking about the ability to decide where resources go and where they don't go and why. I'm talking about the ability to determine who represents you and what they represent you about. The ability to determine the story of who we are and who we can be together. And when I say power, I mean the ability to make there be consequences when people disappoint you. Nobody was worried about disappointing Black people when we were stranded on roofs, waving T-shirts as the floodwaters rose. Nobody was worried about disappointing Black people when a police officer stood on a Black person's neck. I mean the ability to make there be consequences when people disappoint you. We deserve power. Now today, we are going to have an incredible conversation between generations about how we get there, power. As we embark on this journey together, I want you to hold in your mind, what would it look like if we were powerful in every aspect of our lives? What would it feel like if we were powerful in every aspect of our lives? What would it be like if we were powerful and not just empowered? I want you to listen for something this afternoon and for the rest of this morning that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. That's our ancestors calling you forward, asking you to keep dreaming. I want you to search for that place in you that longs for more. And I want you to whisper back, my darling, you deserve. I deserve. We deserve. Y'all ready to get into this conversation? Let's get started.
Nicole Elmore is going to moderate this panel. Give it up for Nicole. And then she is going to be joined by Alicia Garza, by Dr. Xavier Buck, Fredrika Newton, and Supervisor Walton. You are all welcome to come up, and Nicole's going to kick us off. I was going to say a lot about Nicole, but I don't want to go into Miss Garza has a flight to catch, so we're going to keep it moving.
check, check.
Can you hear me?
Good morning. It's on.
Good morning.
Good morning. Come on, with some more energy. Good morning. All right, that's the future school teacher in me. Just kidding, I'm not gonna be a school teacher. So good morning. I am so truly grateful to be here in this space with all of you and our esteemed panel, and of course, you as our guests here for the Dreaming Forward, a celebration of Black joy, power, and excellence. As Dr. Davis mentioned, I'm Nicole Elmore, and we're gonna just get right into it and engage in this power panel to kick the day off. So I'm just gonna quickly introduce them. I wanna note they are extremely acclimated in success, and so we had to compact it down. So here next to me we have Dr. Xavier Buck, who is the Deputy Director of the Dr. Huey P. Newton Foundation. Next to him, we have Mrs. Fredrika Newton, who is the co-founder of the Dr. Huey P. Newton Foundation. We have Supervisor Shamann Walton, who is the District 10 Supervisor. And last but not least, we have Miss Alicia Garza. So we're gonna just kick it right off. And this question I'm gonna start with is for Mrs. Newton and Dr. Buck. Historically, the Black Panther Party was established to dismantle the over-militarization of our Black communities and to protect the Black community against police brutality. The Panthers also implemented survival programs to meet the basic needs to survive, and this has been across generations. Why was this initiative so important to launch at the time, and what can be said about the work?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here today. It's wonderful to see you, Alicia.
So good to see you,
I think it was
too.
my very first panel a few years ago that I was sitting on with you and terrified. Terrified, really, that this legacy had been left in my lap so many years ago when my husband died, and I felt totally unprepared to hold it, and for many years did what I could to, even though we created the Dr. Huey P. Newton 27 years ago, I didn't feel that I had the capability to hold this legacy, and through examples of people like you and many others in this room, I've been bolstered up, and God just gave me what it was that I love that quote about, thank you, that a true genius, and I don't know about all that, has people around you that are smarter than they, and that's exactly what I did with my executive director. He's no longer the deputy executive director, my right-hand man here, Dr. Xavier Buck. So I'm very, very grateful to be here this morning and to talk about the legacy of this party and of my late husband, who was not only my husband, who was my comrade and my leader and my thought partner, and I miss him still today. So in 1966, when the Black Panther Party was started, the conditions were not unlike they are today. Black people were getting brutalized and killed in the streets. Children couldn't even walk across the streets safely. There were no street lights in Black communities, so kids were getting mowed down. There was no sickle cell testing for our community. Sickle cell, kids were dying. There was no lead poisoning testing there. Kids, lead in paint is sweet, so little children the cribs were not near the walls, and they were peeling off the paint from the walls and dying, and there was nothing to be done to protect them or to even analyze that this is what was going on in the community. So the Black Panther Party stepped up with a gun in one hand and a law book in the other. These were two students who went out to the community who had the courage, not unlike any of you in this room, to say, this is enough. This is enough. And so they created not only breakfast for school children programs, but over 65 community survival programs, not just to, like you say, to provide social services, but to organize. These children would come to these programs and not only get fed in their stomachs, but get fed in their minds. We had to know what the foundation of that Black Panther Party was, and that was a 10-point platform. We had to, every week there were political education classes, not just for the members of the party, but for the community as well. We understood that this was a vehicle for organizing and a vehicle for change, that if we met the community, met their basic needs that the government was not providing, not unlike today, that the government does not provide, that we could use this as a way to organize the community, and the community loved the Black Panther Party. You would see images in the newspapers about menacing black men with guns, but you never saw images in the newspaper at 5 o'clock in the morning when these same men were over stoves, were cooking eggs and grits to feed these children so that they didn't have to go to the school hungry in the morning. Or women. Let's not forget about the women. That in the papers, you never saw women in the mass media, but up at one point, there was almost 70% of the membership of the Black Panther Party were women, not only members, but leadership. At one time, the Central Committee was comprised almost entirely of women. So that's the work that we did. The average age was 19. I knew members that were 15, and we just saw a need and filled it in our community. So the very same people that we see sleeping on streets today were people who own houses on the very street that they live, that they're sleeping on right now. So we're not, the kids then, I mean the Black Panther Party members then were not unlike these warriors that are out there today. I've forgotten the question.
You're spot on. You're spot on. It was around why you launched it.
Question.
Okay.
Exactly what you
So, thank you so much. I get a little fired up.
No, get fired up. That's what we're here for, right?
So, today we're doing the work to make sure that that legacy is known, because I can't see you, because it's been maligned, it's been bastardized, it's been erased. And that's the work that we're doing today with the Dr. Huey P. Newton Foundation and brilliant, courageous folks like I got right beside me to my left. And so, yeah, it's even as much or more vital today. And today you have tools that we didn't have. We had the Black Panther Party newspaper that came out weekly for 13 years. Today, we're, you see it in real time. So go for it.
Yeah. Dr. Buck, did you want to speak to that as well?
Sure, I can add on. One of the greatest things I take from the Black Panther Party is how strategic they were and how they changed over time. We talk about how they had guns, and yes, they were for self-defense. There were very real reasons to protect ourselves from police brutality. But Huey P. Newton also knew that you had a group of black brothers with guns, you were finally teaching black people in Oakland specifically and around the country that they had a right to bear arms, right? That was their constitutional right. And yet black folk were getting brutalized left and right, killed in the streets, and didn't realize they could protect themselves and had rights. That's why it's so important that we know that they held a gun in one hand and a law book in the other. And it wasn't until Governor Ronald Reagan and the NRA outlawed concealed carry that all of a sudden in California, you couldn't carry a gun like they had in the beginning. Now, over time, they changed, and so we talk about the survival programs, over 65 survival programs. Those weren't initially there. They evolved because they understood their community. They did community engagement. They didn't have data like we understand it now because the FBI was constantly raiding their offices, but they collected data and they shared it amongst themselves and said, we should respond to the community in this way. So one time they may have had leather jackets and holding shotguns, but they realized at some point that for some community members, it had ostracized themselves from them. And so they decided to wear plain clothes, go into the community and provide free breakfast, provide free clothing. They had a shoe factory. We're giving kids shoes. They created an Oakland Community School. They had pest control. We know that prisons in California are far away from urban centers where most of us come from, and so they started busing families to the prisons so that the families wouldn't be broken apart, right? These are the things that the community wanted, and so by providing those basic needs, now you had the community in line with you, right? And you were in line with the community. So when you provide free breakfast to kids, now they can ask the question, why was I hungry in the first place? Why is everybody in my community hungry? Why are we struggling to live from day to day? And that's when you start to realize that there are systems in place, that capitalism is in place to keep us behind. And so once you have that question that's been asked, now you can organize a mass of people around stopping hunger in your community, around stopping mass incarceration in your community, around stopping police brutality and over-policing in your community. And that's when all of a sudden they pivoted to being in electoral politics and got the first black mayor of Oakland elected, Lionel Wilson. So there is a trajectory, there is change over time, and the strategy changed over time based on that community engagement. And so even, I take that tool today, right? And so when we're developing a museum in Oakland, the Dr. Huey P. Newton Center for Research and Action, that's the kind of ideas that we are engaging with. What does our community need right now? How can we meet those basic needs? Use it as an organizing tool and completely change the trajectory of Black lives. That's what we're doing.
That's incredible. So I want to pivot over to you, Supervisor Walton, just off the basic needs that Dr. Buck mentioned. Can you highlight some of the tools that are happening today that were from the past and currently being used in San Francisco to advance our current efforts for social movements?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, and just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to even be up here with this strong panel. There's a lot of things that we have been working on here in San Francisco, and I think it is incredibly important to really understand what the Dreamkeeper Initiative represents for us here and the work around reparations. To your point, we've always had programs in the schools, after-school programs. We've always supported Black organizations. But what we were able to do with the Dreamkeeper Initiative is really carve out a specific amount of dollars that we know will be going to the Black community consistently every year to the tune of $60 million. And people think that that is a lot of money, but if you look at the data, if you look at the outcomes, if you look at all the negative effects for Black people over decades here in San Francisco, and of course over centuries in this country, you will understand that $60 million is a drop in the bucket. And when we talk about reparations and we talk about what's owed to the Black community, and we start having recommendations and things that we put in place, like a $5 million allotment, like free education, like money for home ownership, like making sure that people who are over-criminalized have an opportunity at life, because in some cases they were criminalized for things that we allow everybody to do today. Then the problems start occurring, right? And I know the question was about carrying the legacy of what our Black Panther Party did, but also I have to talk about where we are today and what's happening right now just because of a conversation. We have people who serve on the Legislative Reparations Task Force in San Francisco being threatened every day by people across this country, quite particularly people here in San Francisco. We have people who have a misconception and think that because they weren't someone who enslaved someone personally, that the fact that they benefit from the transfer of wealth, the transfer of property, having wealth passed down to them, that they're not a part of the problem and the issue. We have people who say that we are racist because we're fighting to make sure that we can do everything we can to have an opportunity for Black people to be successful. So I just say, in my role, obviously, I have to listen to my community and try to come up with legislation, strategies, and solutions that are going to be beneficial to them. But like Alicia stated earlier, it gets easier to want to say no because it's a lot of BS out there, right? And the sickest part and the craziest part for me in this work is most of the friction that we get. I could care less about what these other folks say, right? That I expect it. But most of the friction we get is from our own people, not understanding that we all play a role in this struggle and in this fight. It's okay to be the one who focuses on this area. It's okay to be the one that focuses on this area. And how do we bring all that strength together so that we can speak and move as one unit and be that fist that we need in community? So we are working, of course, to continue the legacy of the Black Panther Party, to make sure that we bring all of the work of all of our most polarizing and most celebrated members of our history together and do it in a manner where we actually do achieve power and we actually can get things done, because just having a Black mayor, just having a Black supervisor, just having Black department heads is never going to be enough if we're not able to really gain power in this work.
Very true. So I want to speak to you, Miss Alicia, just around power and the Black Future Lab. The Black Future Lab is similar to just a crazy revival of the civil rights movement of the 60s. And so can you tell us more about the Black Future Labs, how you're organizing and adopting tools from the past and using it here in the present, and what we're looking for in the future for Black Future Labs?
I'm so glad you asked that question. So the Black Futures Lab, we started in 2018 with a project called the Black Census Project. And the goal of that was to really get to know our people and what it is that we want and what it is that we deal with every single day, and to engage us in the question of how would you change it? Yeah? We conducted the largest survey of Black people in America in 157 years with that project. Now, I feel good about that, but I also want to say that we did that 30,000 people. Why is that the largest survey of Black people in 157 years, right? From that data, what we found was a lot of things about our conditions, a lot of things about how we thought about issues and what we wanted to see done about them. You can find all that stuff on our website. But the most important thing that came out of that project was that almost everybody we talked to said, nobody's ever asked me what I deal with every day and what I want to see for my future. And that does not bode well for a democracy where we are supposed to be moving public policy for the public. If most people said, I've never been asked, then that means there's all kinds of laws and rules being made about us without us every single day. And that is part of the problem that we're trying to address. We don't keep this data on a shelf. We actually took the data back out into communities and held town hall meetings to talk to people, elected officials, community members, members of the media, so that that data could become yours. That data is free to access. We organized. We also used it as a tool to organize. So we invested over $1 million in Black-led grassroots organizations in 26 states across the country to be able to take this tool and start talking to people. Not behind Facebook and Instagram and all these things that we don't own and don't belong to us, but knocking on people's doors. We took the survey into prisons and jails so that people could be heard. And we take that data and we turn it into a legislative agenda that we fight for. That legislative agenda is called the Black Agenda 2020, and it lays out a series of policy recommendations for what you can do right now to make Black lives matter in the economy, in our environment, in every aspect that you can think of. We also do a lot of work at the Black Futures Lab and the Action Fund to make sure that we're activating and motivating Black voters. We get talked about and talked around all the time, but Black voters are the most powerful constituency in this country, and it's time, right, that we engage in politics not on the basis of personalities. There's a lot of people I like that I don't want representing me. You understand what I'm saying? So what we do in that vein is we activate and motivate Black voters. We make sure that our communities are educated about the issues that are impacting us every single day, the laws that are impacting us every single day, and we force politicians and elected officials to engage with us substantively, not symbolically. I don't need no fried chicken. I fry a good chicken. What we need, right, is resources in our communities. We want to know, what are you doing about healthcare? We want to know, what are you doing about affordable housing? We want to know, what are you doing about policing? Don't come to our communities and eat our greens. You understand what I'm saying? Don't come to our communities and eat our greens, but not change rules in our communities that are going to benefit us. So that's the work that we do at the lab. And then on the Action Fund side, we also invest in Black candidates that we want to see representing us. And we make sure that those candidates, it's not just because they're Black, it's their allegiance and their adherence to an agenda that was designed based off the feedback of the largest survey of Black people in 157 years. So that's the work that we do at the lab and the Action Fund. And I just want to say, if you want to take the Black census, it's still open. We're doing another round. We're going for 200,000 responses. That will make us the largest survey of Black people in American history. And we're working on creating a legislative agenda for 2024, because we already know what time it's about to be. So join us, blackcensus.org.
You heard that, blackcensus.org. So I wanna just speak on that and move to access around communication. And so I'll move to you, Dr. Buck, and Alicia, feel free to jump in, and any others. Social media can spark a cross-generational movement in seconds, right? So what role is tech playing in the continuous efforts of the Black movement toward Black liberation?
Yeah, so the Black Panther Party, they had a 10-point platform. And in that 10th point, they said that we want people's community control over modern technology. This was written in '67. All of a sudden, we happen to be in the tech capital of the world, the San Francisco Bay Area. And one part, the reason we call it the Dr. Huey P. Newton Center for Research and Action is because that action part is extremely important, and we understand that we can leverage the technology here. So what we think of is, well, if we understand the survival programs where you went to the community, understood the community, and then you created a program out of the conditions that exist, well, why can't we do that with app development? Why can't we do that with the series of technology at our hands? There are apps that can be created to alleviate social problems, used to then organize people, used to then get people at the polls and change electoral politics. We can do the exact same thing at a much faster rate. Right, the whole thing, not all of technology is decentralized, because we understand tech companies have a lot of power and wealth that they're hoarding to themselves. But there are a lot of tools at our hands that we can quickly look up with a Google search that have decentralized technology and that can move movements much faster. And we've seen that, right? I think when I think about Black Lives Matter, I mean, it blew up out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere, you were doing work, but you know what I mean? Like overnight, it seemed like. And stuff like that wasn't necessarily possible. The Black Panther Party didn't blow up overnight, right? Their biggest events is they escorted Betty Shabazz after Malcolm was killed at San Francisco airport and protected her. There was a case in North Richmond where Denzel Dow, a young Black man, was killed, and when nobody else would come out, they went out and protected the community. When they marched to the Capitol and the state capitol in Sacramento with guns to protest gun regulation, right? There are these big events they had to do to become one of the most popular organizations of the 20th century. But nowadays, you know, with influencers around, with Instagram and TikTok and all of this, there's ways to make movements popular and ground them in some really good work and to spread that information fast. So, you know, it's all about the speed of things. But I also never want to overstate what Instagram or social media can do because it can be very superficial. And so I say use it to spread information fast, right? You don't have to print a newspaper. Use it to spread information fast, to get the word out, but never forget about having foot soldiers on the ground doing the actual work, right? It is a tool, not the end all be all.
That's right.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So as we, I'm looking at the clock there, and my director is looking at me with the mama stare like, wrap this up. No, I'm just kidding. As we talk about harness and power, I would just love to hear briefly from all of you around, is true Black liberation, is it available? Can we harness it? Can we achieve this? And what will it take for us to ultimately get there?
Yes, it's possible. It's attainable. It's a marathon and not a sprint. It requires all of the things that folks have talked about, right? Honest conversations about how wealth was designed and developed in this country. It requires us to have a strategy and to be able to change our minds. It requires us to have people in leadership that have been intentionally kept away from helping make decisions about how we go forward. And it also requires, honestly, a real grappling with the trauma of Black life. the fact that every single day we have to remind ourselves that we matter, that we have rights, that we deserve, it takes a toll on us. And I don't think we talk about that enough. And we certainly don't have enough of the tools to engage that. I'll just say really quickly that one of the things I was just sitting here thinking about is the evolution of this movement of Black Lives Matter. And one of the most challenging things in this time is not just misinformation and disinformation. That's challenging. It's also typical. But it is that most of us are moved to act because something wrong has happened. And so we are acting, but we are not resolving the impact of the wrong. And the wrong continues, so we have to continue, but there's not tools. We're not equipped with the tools to really support people who have been traumatized and terrorized and wounded. And so we take that out on each other. And it keeps us from being able to work effectively together. It's not because there's something inherently wrong with us. It breaks my heart to hear that Black people are saying we don't need reparations. That kills me in my soul. And, right, that's intentional. It's intentional, because if Black people say we don't need it, well then, Black people say we don't need it. Why are we doing this? You understand where I'm coming from? So my wish for us in our quest for Black liberation is to add that to our toolbox. It has to be a part of the organizing work. It has to be a part of the electoral work. It has to be a part of the service work. It has to be a part of how we keep our communities whole, intact, and engaged, but also connected and embodied.
Yeah, I like to think around racial trauma, we need to combat, recover, and then learn how to thrive through it. So we can move to you, Supervisor Walton, just around your thoughts around how to achieve true Black liberation.
Well, definitely, again, yes, we can. It's going to require true courage. It's going to require the elimination of a lot of ego. It's going to require folks to get on the same page and not be able to pull in different directions after you organize and come together and say, this is the focus and this is the plan. It's going to take folks to understand that we are always going to be stronger together. And we can't forget what happened to Emmett Till. We can't forget what happened to George Floyd. We can't forget what happened to Tyree Nichols. We can't just be reactive in situations. You know, a lot of focus on the real fight came out after George Floyd. We had folks really working to change law enforcement. We have folks even working to defund police departments and disintegrate police departments. And that narrative quickly went from that to let's get the police more money right here in San Francisco. We use resources from the Dreamkeeper Initiative to redirect resources away from the police department. And here we are in 2023, and we got folks calling for more money for police. So it's gonna take us to never forget how we were brought to this country, why we were brought to this country, that our women were raped, we couldn't be educated, we could not grow and build wealth. And we have to take that into the work every single day. Because I think if we take that to the work every single day, then we would all be stronger. No matter what we do for a living, no matter what type of clothes we wear, I know when I walk in a room, suit, no suit, whatever, the first thing they see is a Black man. And that's problematic. And when we all realize that, no matter your class, your station, and we stay focused on what we say we're gonna do, we can't be beat, but we gotta do that together.
I say yes, we can. I don't think I'd still be doing this work at 71 years old if I didn't have the vision to know, not the understanding in my heart to know that yes, we can. I think that one of the things that, as a young member of the Black Panther Party, that I saw that we didn't have what we thought was, what really actually was the leisure to do, was to take care of ourselves. To take care of ourselves emotionally, to take care of ourselves spiritually, to take care of ourselves mentally. And I think when we speak of trauma, we see that it's taken over 50 years for members of the Black Panther Party to even come forward and talk about their experiences because of the trauma. Because of the trauma that we lived in 24/7 with 28 of our members being murdered, that we just lived in foxholes. We survived. So if I could pass anything on, that I know to be true is that we've got to take care of ourselves, or we're no good to the community. So we're not coming there whole, particularly women. So I absolutely feel yes, we can. I know we can, and we've got to take care of ourselves in the meantime. And whatever that looks like, there's got to be a balance, and we didn't have the leisure to do that during that time. And I think it's imperative that we figure out how to do it today.
One thing about the Black Panther Party is that the survival programs and the political education they provided to the communities was, on one hand, it was about getting people ready for revolution. Right? They understood that people were not ready yet. And so for me, when you ask the question, well, is Black liberation possible? To me, it's possible when we realize this is a class struggle and not a racial struggle. Don't get me wrong. Race is built into capitalism. It's built into our class struggle. Doesn't matter how rich a Black person you are, you're still somehow considered in a lower tier of our class, right? But this is a class struggle. So yes, the Black Panther Party, they were the vanguard. They led the movements. But there were Puerto Ricans, there were Chicanos, there were Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, right? There were white folks from Appalachia who they convinced to put the Confederate flag away because they had a shared class struggle. I'm a realist, and for me, I believe Black community, we take care of ourselves, but we also have to understand if we want real revolution in our time, it's gonna take alliances across class. It's gonna take a moment where we understand there are the haves and the have-nots. And revolution can look a lot of different ways, but I'm saying for Black liberation to happen, a revolution has to happen in our time. So unless that's on our mind and we consider what that really means in this country, Black liberation will not happen. But if we are serious about this work, serious about this class struggle, serious about taking care of ourselves and building these alliances, then yes, me and my daughter one day will see Black liberation.
Well, unfortunately, we have to close it out, but that was a powerful way to close it out, so super excited. Again, you got the charge from Dr. Sy on the ask for today as we continue to dream forward and bridge this gap toward Black liberation. So thank you so much for having us, and thank you to our amazing panel. Please give it up for them. They were so incredible. Thank you so much.